Hello and welcome. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the Heuer 1000 professional watch. We'll pop it out of this box here and have a look at it, go over some of its details, look at its measurements and specifications, and talk a little bit about its history and origins. I do want to state that I am not a trained horologist, nor am I a licensed YouTube watch reviewer. So these are just my very personal experiences owning the watch and looking at it from an enthusiast perspective. So how about we take a look? So this box is pretty beat up, as you can tell. The watch itself is in good condition, though, with some wear as to be expected for its age, about 40 years old. So let's open this up. We'll take out the watch here. So this is the Heuer 1000 Professional. This is in a black and gold model, a stainless steel case that has been covered in black PVD and gold accents. I really like that color scheme, which is why I have this watch, and I'll expand on that a little bit. Go ahead and set this here. Before we go on, I should probably do a wrist check for the curious. I'm currently wearing the Dan Henry 1964 chronograph. Black dial with the white subdials. It's a fantastic watch. Dan Henry just does really great work interpreting old designs and really making them his own. We could talk a lot about that, but that's what I'm currently wearing. So let's have a look at the Heuer 1000. Now, to start with, many of you might think of Tag Heuer and not realize they were originally Heuer watches. The box I have is not original to this watch as far as I know. You see it is branded Tag Heuer, but the watch itself, hidden behind the Mercedes hour hand here, is just a Heuer. So Heuer watches taken over by, merged with Tag in the mid-80s, I believe 1985. Tag stands for, don't rely on me for the pronunciation here, Techniques d'Avant-Garde. So the brand became Tag Heuer and future watches would be branded as Tag Heuer. So this comes from just before that or right at the same time. This watch probably dates from exactly the time of the merger. I don't know exactly. It's possible some of the Heuer branding continued for a bit until they switched over, but probably my guess is right around 1985, but mid-80s for this watch. The Heuer 1000 series was a pretty big success for them, and it stemmed from the owner getting some feedback that customers were looking for a dive watch that be more affordable while still very water resistant. So this is a dive watch, and the affordability dimension comes from the fact that it is a quartz watch. So of course many of the coveted Swiss dive watches are automatics. This does have a quartz movement, and quartz movements are really wonderful. Automatics are a mechanical marvel, but certainly when it comes to precise timekeeping at an affordable price, which was very important for me in my purchase, the affordability dimension, quartz is really terrific. And so this 1000 series was a pretty big success for Heuer, as I understand it. So this black and gold variant is the reference number 980.029N. And the way I got turned on to this watch was some watch enthusiasts had done an investigative analysis to identify the watch worn at the start of The Living Daylights by Timothy Dalton as James Bond. And they were able to identify it as the Heuer Night Diver 980.031. So in the same series, but a different style of watch, it also had the black PVD coating. Did not have a gold trim, but what made it very distinctive was it had a light colored dial that was fully loomed, so the entire dial would glow in the dark, so you could read the time. Pretty cool. They're fairly hard to find now, at least in good condition. Tag Heuer did do a version of their Aqua Racer replicating that style. It's just a very expensive watch. And I was excited to hear that NTH had made a modern take on it, only to learn that they have gone out of business. But they made a very cool full loom dial watch in that style. I'll put up a picture of the Heuer Night Diver that I am talking about, so you can see as that fully loomed dial in the black case. You'll see that I have the watch on a nylon NATO strap This is the El Alamein strap from Wrist Candy Watch Club, which is a collaboration with the Urban Gentry. He's a watch content creator. He's quite a character, but I respect the work he does to educate himself. And I have to say, I find his design and style choices to be fantastic. I definitely own more than one strap from his collaborations. We will talk about that in other videos, but I absolutely love his color choices here, inspired by desert camouflage, thus the El Alamein name, the World War II battle. But fantastic choice, and I love how it goes with this watch. I really like this pairing, so as soon as I got this, it has stayed on there. The watch originally comes, of course, with a bracelet. I have the detached bracelet here. It's a Jubilee style bracelet, again in the black PVD with the gold links in there as well for that two-tone look. You can see we have our black PVD links and gold, black, gold, black, gold, black, and then the clasp. And you can see the clasp is branded Tag Heuer, which makes me think the watch was probably from after the merger, just still with the old dial, because it is my understanding that is the original bracelet. Alright, so I think I will take this off of the nylon strap here so we can take a look at the back of the watch and look at some of the specifications for the watch. Let me go ahead and pull this off. I will say this is a terrific strap, but I have had fraying on one corner, which I haven't really experienced before. Done a little heat to keep it from fraying further, but it does create a little extra friction going through the rings on the strap. Alright, so we are free from our strap. We can take a closer look at the watch here. So you have a black PVD case. We have the rotating dive bezel, which is marked numbers at the 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. The triangle with dot at the 0 or 12 o'clock position. The dive bezel is unidirectional. It only rotates one way. So it has a very satisfying click. Feels very good to turn. And let's go ahead. I will set this. If if we set the 0 point with our triangle, if you're unfamiliar with the operation of a dive bezel, it is extremely simple, but we just align this with the minute hand, and then it becomes an elapsed timer. As the minute hand moves from that starting point, you will know how many minutes have passed. So once the minute hand points at the 10 minutes would have passed. Now traditionally this was used for divers to understand how long they'd been underwater in order to time their dive. Of course, nowadays people use dive computers, which are going to be far more accurate for what they're doing. But in the old days, this could give you a guideline to monitor how long you had been underwater. Of course, in the modern world, watch owners with a rotating bezel like this may use it for other timing tasks, like timing how long pasta has been cooking and things like that. And it only rotates one direction, so that if it should get bumped, it will increase the time. Or if you were planning to be under, say, for 20 minutes, it would shorten that, so you'd have that measure of safety. It would never increase and put you in a dangerous situation. So we have the black insert in the cold bezel. It's very tactile with the knurling on there. When it comes to using this as a dive launch, we have 200 meters of water resistance. But I'll be honest, when I'm diving, I only go down to 197 or 198 meters, just to avoid, the risk of going all the way to 200 meters. To support that, it also has a screw down crown. This allows for a tight seal to make sure water doesn't get in at those deeper depths. And so if we unscrew that crown, we can then pull it out, and that will allow us to change the time of the watch. And then there is a second setting, just a very faint press inward. And by doing that, we can change the date. Let me screw this back down. So it's locked in there. Let's go ahead and rotate our bezel back to the 12 o'clock position. Okay, so the watch really just has that single complication of the date window at the 3 o'clock position. In terms of dial markings, it has the triangle at 12 o'clock, which matches the triangle on the bezel. We have bars at 9 o'clock and 6 o'clock, and then just dots at our other hour markers. These are loomed for visibility, typically underwater, but see it at night too, though. This being an older watch and from the 80s, doesn't necessarily last super long. The loom here is tritium, so some great nuclear weapons material grade tritium to power our watch loom. You can see a lollipop seconds hand with that round marker on there. Of the straight minute hand, and then the Mercedes hour hand. And those hands are loomed. I think we can take a look at that. My magnifier can shine some light on this. It's a bit hard to see in this light, but there is a bit of loom that we're getting from that. I'm going to change my time here just so we can see the dial a little bit better. So just adjust that time again, give you a clear view. So you can see the Heuer brand logo, and then the 1000 indicating the 1000 series. Smart quartz for the quartz movement inside. That 200 meters of water resistance indication. And then professional. This is the Heuer 1000 professional series of watches. Has a sapphire crystal covering the watch, so nicely scratch resistant. Let's take a look at the back of the watch. And on the case back here, you can see the Heuer logo, that it is Swiss made, water resistant to 200 meters, and as I said, made of stainless steel with the PVD coating. And you can see this is a material that does wear, so you can see where the PVD has come off over time, and we're seeing that steel underneath. It doesn't trouble me. It's kind of a nice, broken in, worn watch, lovely patina. So, very cool overall. And then we also have the 980.029N reference indication for this specific variant of the watch. So why don't we flip this back over, and I'm going to get out my caliper so we can look at some of the dimensions of the watch. Open up my case here. Take out the caliper. This will allow us to get some very precise measurements of the watch. We have the published dimensions, but it's fun to take a look at it ourselves. So let's take a look at the diameter of the watch, and we have 37 millimeters. that is as expected. Well, this was a fairly normal size for the time. It is a somewhat smaller dive watch by today's standards, where a lot are 42 millimeters larger than this. This is a terrific size on the NATO strap. You hardly notice it's there on the wrist, which is great. And then sometimes I much prefer being able to feel the weight of my 42 millimeter dive watch. Just different wear experiences, but this is a highly functional watch. Overall easy to read, has some very faint minute marks between the hour hands. But yes, 37 millimeter diameter. And then when it comes to the lug width, we see 18 millimeter lug width, and I have an 18 millimeter nylon NATO strap for this watch to match those lug dimensions. And then let's take a look at the lug to lug measurement to get an overall picture of the size of the watch. And we see 45 millimeters lug to lug. As I said, it wears small, wears very comfortably. And if we want to take a look at the overall thickness of our watch here, it is just under 11 millimeters. Overall, a more classic, kind of slightly smaller diver dimensions. Beautifully curving case, crown guards on the side of the watch. And I didn't mention the movement inside. So we said it is quartz. And to the best of my knowledge, this is an ETA 955.114 movement. If you have better information, please do share, but my research, that was what I came up with. It seemed like there were maybe a couple different movements used in this era, but that seems like the most likely option from what I could learn. So that is the Heuer 1000 Professional, the 980.029N in black and gold with the black PVD covered stainless steel case and gold accents for the bezel and the crown. Loomed dots, bars, and triangle on the dial. Black dial with gold text. I, of course, was interested in the Bond Night Diver we discussed. big fan of Timothy Dalton. I think history has kind of revised perception of him, and there's more acceptance of his qualities as Bond, recognition that he was closer to the novels, perhaps a bit harsh to call him a prototype for Daniel Craig, but Craig's Bond, I do think, went for some of those qualities as well. Dalton had two fantastic movies. I don't think we can objectively say he's the best Bond. Of course, that would be Lazenby, but still a terrific Bond and one I really like. Each has their own qualities, of course. Please do come at me in the comments about the Lazenby joke. Is it a joke? Anyway, we're digressing. Perhaps Dalton didn't have that little extra crowd pleaser dimension that someone like Craig does, but monster actor, really cool Heuer watch, although I believe they are not sure if it was a Heuer or Tag Heuer for the specific model he was wearing. But yes, this was a digression into a topic we could go in to serious depth about the various bonds. The point being, finally we're getting to the point, was interested in the Night Diver, but in researching it, I found this black and gold variant, which I absolutely loved. Historically more of a silver person, and then maybe some of that contrarianness in me. I'm liking gold more, some of those 80s vibes of it. But also the John Player special black and gold race car liveries. Nezumi made a black and gold watch leading into that. I wasn't able to get one, though I got a Dan Henry similarly toned with black and gold. Kind of scratched that itch. But yeah, that kind of, I think, is where some of the appeal of this came from. But I absolutely love this Heuer diver, and love it on that. Hello Alamein nylon NATO strap. Let me know if you have any other good suggestions of pairings for this watch. And do let me know if you liked this type of video. We've never really done something like this on the channel. So, with that, I will say good night, and thanks for taking a look at the Heuer 1000 Professional with me. I hope you have a wonderful night.